Hi friends, so you might be confused about how to make an offer on property in Idaho. You may have not made an offer on a home in a long time, or you might be a first-time home buyer. So here are some of my tried and true top 10 best things and their little caveats as well to know about when making an offer in Idaho. And I'm going to read off my list and then kind of give you a little bit of information in addition to that. So super exciting. So in Idaho, the seller pays the agent commission. So if you have a buyer agent, the seller pays that agent's commission. The agent's commission generally ranges from 2 to 3%. And that's important to know because a lot of times buyers think that they have to pay the agent. So that's not the case. The seller has already pre-negotiated that before they even went on the multiple listing service. So no harm, no foul. Don't worry about that. That part's already taken care of. One of the other things that you need to know is usually people see between 5 and 7 homes before they decide to make an offer on a home. Now, they may see the first home and think that's the home, but what people most of the time need to do is just to get a few other showings under their belt so that they can confirm that that was the best home. But it happens quite a lot to me, especially. It's like I'll show people a home, then they circle back to that home 4 or 5 homes later, and then we make an offer. So that's very common, that's very typical. Don't worry about it. Also, a caveat to all of this is do not worry about wanting to see too many homes. That is the buyer agent's job. And most of the time, that's the buyer agent's favorite part of the job. Like for me, I love showing homes. I love being in homes. I love home design. I love staging. I love seeing homes. And the more homes I see, I try to see over 200 homes a year. So the more homes that I see every year, the better agent I will be. And that's very important. So don't worry about that. So here's some things to know when making the offer. A lender letter is recommended in Idaho. In fact, most offers will be kicked back if you don't have a lender letter. Why, you ask? Because the agent and the seller, the agent is representing the seller, and the seller's part of their duty is that financial piece to make sure that the offer is valid, and an offer isn't valid unless you can prove that you can get a loan on that. Now, if you're not getting a loan and you have cash, then you need to have proof of funds. So those two things are very, very important in Idaho. So also knowing the value of the home. So your agent, your buyer agent, should be running a comparative market analysis for you when you get ready to make that offer. It doesn't take long to do, but what he or she will do is she'll give you the top actives, pendings, and solds in that criteria, in that pocket. And if they can't get enough data in that pocket, they have to go a little bit wider. So basically what this is like a mini appraisal. If they're not a broker, they can't actually do an appraisal. I have a broker's license, so but I don't do appraisals for people to buy homes. I do what's called a comparative market analysis, as if I'm looking at this home when the appraiser comes. So I want to make sure that this home will appraise. Now, if it doesn't appraise and you still want the home, it's my job to tell you that. It's my job to say, I'm a little concerned about appraisal on this. You know, it may be $5,000 or $6,000 off. So at that point, you can say, hey, let's offer a little bit less. And then I can negotiate with the agent and say, hey, I don't know where you're getting your comps. These are our comps. I'm going to send them over to you. And this is why our offer is $5,000 or $6,000 lower. So that's very important. You want that agent to be able to negotiate that for you. The other thing is you want to know the seller's disclosures. If there's something in that disclosure that you're not okay with, let's say there was mold and you don't want to ever buy a home with mold in it, that's important for you to know. Most mold in Idaho can be mitigated. There isn't a lot of black mold in Idaho. It's just not typical to have this long, like this black mold that grows forever and ever and ever, because most mold is mitigated pretty quickly here. We also don't have pest issues here, but you do want to know, if there's mold in a home. Some people won't live in a home with mold, especially if they have asthma. You also want to know the taxes. So you want to know your tax mills, so how much you're going to be charged on taxes, what the current taxes are, and what our expected taxes would be once you purchase the home. And then also, if you can find out the property history as much as possible, great. If you can't, most people can't. Some historic homes will have a registry, so you'll be able to find out that. You want to know the schools, if schools are important. If you have a kiddo going to school, schools are always important to know. You want to know what the commute is. If you're commuting to town, how close is it to everything else? Those are just kind of these caveats. One of the key items is when you make an offer, you will need to be ready to have a copy of your earnest money. Earnest money is usually 1 to 3% of the purchase price. If you're in a competitive situation, you want to be a little bit more on that 3%. And what that means is earnest money says, hey, I in earnest am making this offer. And that's what that means. And so the higher that dollar amount, the more people think you're serious about that home and you really want the home, and you're less likely to back out. A caveat to that is that, remember, when making earnest money deposits, that money becomes in play if you were to default. So do remember that. A default means that you're walking away with no reason. Walking away with no reason, or even with a reason, if you have to negotiate, that earnest money comes into play. So don't give away too much earnest money because it becomes at risk. So FYI on that. And then you want to know the terms of your contract. Terms, what are terms? Terms are when is the earnest money due? It's usually due 3 days after the acceptance of your offer. When is the financing letter due? So there is an initial pre-approval letter that will be due with the offer. Then there's also a final financing once it's gone through underwriting that's due within 10 days of the offer. When are the inspections due? Inspections are usually 3 to 5 days in Idaho. If you need a longer inspection because you're out of town, we definitely need to negotiate that, because that's not an expectation sellers usually like, because they want you to, if you're going to terminate, you're going to terminate during the inspection period, and they just want you to terminate sooner than later. And then what are your contingency deadlines? So the financing deadline, the inspection deadline, the final walkthrough deadline, the inspection repair deadlines, usually those are 3 and 3. So you definitely want to know when those deadlines are. You also want to know when the seller's response is. So you've put in an offer and you're giving them 24 to 48 hours to respond. You want to know that date, because that is important for you to know, because that's your waiting game, and that's when you get really nervous. And it's hard. I kind of like 24 to 30 hours of response time. 48 is really long, and you as buyers get really, really nervous. Sellers also can get nervous. So anyway, the sooner the better is my recommendation, but don't give somebody 2 hours to respond. Most people can't rally that quickly, and certainly even 6 hours, it's hard. So just out of respect for everybody who's, remember, there's an agent, there's a seller, there's all these other people involved. Sometimes it's a trust, and so there's a group of people. So just, remember, we have to put our patient's hat on, and usually we'll know if it's a trust or not. But also you want to know who your title company is, what the recommendation there, your title and escrow officers as well. Those are very important people in your life, because they're going to keep your title clean, going to make sure that you get that inspected. We do have some favorite title companies, so we'll let you know along the way. And then what inspector to use, tried and true inspectors who can find things, inspectors who have experience. That's very important. We can give you those recommendations. And then here's a final thing that's very important. What do you expect in a repair contingency? So when you have what we call an RE10, which is a buyer inspection contingency, what should you expect to be able to ask for that gets repaired or replaced? So the answer is it depends. It is definitely not deferred maintenance. So nicks, scratches, dents, dings on things are considered deferred maintenance, and those are generally not asked for in an existing home. New construction's different. Things that are like, if your burners on your furnace aren't working, you want that replaced. If the air conditioner is not working, you want a working air conditioner. If the oven or appliances are not working, you want them to be working. Those are big ticket items. If there's water intrusion, you want that repaired. If there's mold in the attic, you want that repaired. If there's some gutter issues, you want those repaired. So those are just typical things. Small minor cracks on concrete, definitely not repaired by sellers generally. big heaving things that, are more than an inch, you can ask for those. They may say no. You have to remember, when you're asking for repairs on inspections, sellers can say no to all of it, which is crazy to me, but they do definitely say no. So they could say yes to some and no to a couple, and then they could also just offer a credit. When a credit comes in, we definitely need to make sure that if you have a lender, how high that credit can be with the lender. And then if it is something like mold and water intrusion, you definitely just need those repaired, because the lender doesn't want to purchase a home and take that liability if there's mold or water intrusion. So hope those are helpful tips for you. And again, if you have more questions about making an offer in Idaho on property, if you have more questions about, hey, who should I choose as my agent? Obviously, I'm a real estate agent, so our team would love to help you. And if you have other questions, we give free advice all the time. Even if you're in contract with somebody else, we give free advice. We always want to send you right back to your agent. And if you're in an agent relationship and it's a little bit odd, please just make sure that you try to repair that relationship as much as possible and really communicate with them, because everybody deserves to have a bad day, but hopefully it's not a bad experience overall. And I am a real estate associate broker for Keller Williams, and I do love helping people find and purchase and sell real estate, so I can answer most of your real estate questions. I am not a lawyer, however. You can call me or DM me for specific questions or specific questions about areas, 208-270-2730. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have a ton of videos coming up. Ben Campbell and I are partners, as well as Bridget Crawford and Kevin Campbell, and we are doing a bunch of videos of late. And so over the next 100 days, you'll see a ton of videos that hopefully will be really helpful for you when purchasing and selling real estate. Like and subscribe again, and then if you want more information, just DM me. And you can find us on Instagram as well, and all that information is down in the comments.